What would you do if one ordinary day you found an FBI business card sitting on your doorstep? In this episode, my guest shares that story, the story of a life altering moment that changed everything. And she talks to us about how pain, uncertainty, and unimaginable circumstances led her into a deeper purpose. If you've ever wondered how to keep leading and holding on to hope when life turns and you never saw it coming, then this conversation is for you. Before we get started, I want to thank our legacy partner, Craig Williams, founder of Conversary. At Spark Hope, we believe story matters because story shapes how we lead, how we connect, and how we show up in the world. Conversary helps authors and leaders bring clarity to their story and confidence to their voice so that their brand truly reflects who they are. You can learn more about their work by visiting the link in today's show notes or on the Spark Hope website. Thank you, Conversary, for supporting the Lead with Hope podcast. Welcome to the Lead with Hope podcast, the show where we explore the power of hope in leadership and in life. I'm your host, Brandi Kelly, and each week we have honest conversations that inspire growth, healing, resilience, and purpose, because every face has a story and every story has a face. Today's conversation is going to be a powerful one, deeply human, and one that I know is going to stay with you. My guest today is Mandi Pratt. She's a speaker and founder of Women Aware and Prepared. Welcome to the show, Mandi.
Thank you so much for having me, and hello to everybody who's listening.
So, Mandi, I want you to take us back to that day. What went through your mind when you got home and you found an FBI business card on your doorstep?
Right. That is a moment etched in my memory forever. It was back in 2005, and I was coming home to the house that my young son and I were living at because we had left an abusive spouse about a year before that. And so I came home by myself and found a business card tucked into the door jamb. And so I took that off, and it said coroner's unit, robbery unit. And my heart sank because I knew what this was in regards to.
Mhm.
And there was a handwritten note that said, "Call me, please," and a telephone number. So I was afraid to call the number because I didn't know what I was going to find on the other line. Unfortunately, my former spouse had had a gambling problem and was really having problems. So I opened the door, went upstairs to the telephone, dialed the phone number to hear a voice on the other line say, "Ma'am, this is so and so from the FBI. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have been looking for your, I hope he's soon to be ex-husband's whereabouts for the past 6 to 9 months because he's wanted for multiple bank robberies." And I remember just being dumbfounded. And I don't even know how long I sat there for. It felt like forever to me.
Yeah.
But he could certainly see that I was clueless. And he said, "We've been searching for him." And he said some other things. All I just heard was like, blah, 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 like the Charlie Brown thing.
Right.
And then I heard him say, "Can I please come speak to you? I don't need your corroboration, but I would like to just talk to you about some things." And so, of course, I said yes, because I want this information.
Right.
I need to know what's going on. And so I remember the next day opening up the front door, and there he was with his briefcase, and he came inside, sat down at the kitchen table, and then kind of fanned out all of those surveillance photos. And then he went on to tell me, all the dates and the times and locations of each of the robberies. And I was just like, again, dumbfounded, but I was trying to write everything down because I was trying to, in retrospect, I could see this, that I was trying to somehow help it make sense.
Mhm.
So, I'm thinking that this is going to somehow connect in my brain. And so, yeah, he came over and he explained a little bit more. And then, I could clearly see that was him in the bank photos. Again, they said they didn't really need my corroboration. I think, honestly, in retrospect, he was just being kind and giving me a clue on the severity of what we were dealing with. So that to me was just like, wow. And I already knew like what we were going through was so incredibly difficult. I ended up with complex PTSD. And so I had left, like I said, and I was trying to get, healing and stuff. And then here's another thing that just drops in my lap. And so I had to learn how to take that plot twist, right? And then how to handle that and become, resilient as best I could after that, which I'm glad to say I did. And, my son back then was like 4 and he's now 24 and doing amazingly well. So super happy about that part.
Yeah, that is an amazing story. I am one of those people that I watch Criminal Minds, I watch
Hmm.
CSI, all of the true crime kind of shows,
Right.
but you
Right.
never expect that to land in your home. And that's what
Right.
with you that landed in your home. And so as you are trying to put the pieces together in your mind, trying to make this make sense somehow, how did you find purpose in this and find hope throughout all of this uncertainty?
Right. Well, first I'll talk about finding purpose. That to me was a huge wake up call. And at that moment, I feel like a light switch went on like, okay, so now we've been just trying to, you know, get better mentally and dealing with different things like that. But now we're in the whole criminal element here. And so I knew that at that moment, things would have to change. So I would have to take different actions. Right. And again, I also realize I absolutely cannot control this. It would be really nice to be able to do that,
Yeah.
but that is just out of my control, right? And so I started to realize the different things that I could do the best that I could for myself and my son, he was pretty little back then. So just trying to navigate all of that and just taking baby steps, little micro steps that I could take each time, and it was difficult because I would take like 3 steps forward and then there would be more trauma and I'd take 2 steps backwards. But I knew to keep moving. And I would love to say like I had a wonderful team of all these resources and all of this stuff, but it was way back then, right? It was like 20 years ago. So we didn't have a lot of the resources that we have today. So I had to just navigate through it on my own for the most part and a counselor and then like just a handful of friends who had been through something kind of similar. So that really helped me. But getting back to the purpose question you had, was after going through that and all these years later, I realized, my gosh, if I can somehow help other people not have to get to that point, so I talk a lot about prevention on a very deep level. And then I also talk about the other side, which is healing.
Mhm.
Because for me, it was helpful to get talk therapy, but I also needed some other further steps. And so I love talking about those 2 sides of the coin, So now I really see that as my purpose and see that as, I have all that life experience, right? Real world advice that I had to learn the hard way. So I know a lot of times a lot of us go through really difficult things, right? And a lot of times people feel alone through that because we don't talk about these things. And so I'm definitely not shy in talking about that. I mean, the story, as you just heard, is so wild. But what can we pull out of that that's actually practical and usable? So I'm not just out there for the entertainment factor, but also, to actually help people prevent and then also heal.
Yeah. We want to use the message that is our life,
Hmm.
pain into purpose. And I believe that we can. And we both do that through speaking. I also do that through coaching. When you think about that though, going out and you speak, I think, to a broad array of audiences and you go out and you speak to them, I'm curious, what's that message you most hope they walk away with?
Hmm. Well, I speak to HR groups. I talk about invisible disabilities. So a lot of people, even at work, right, are dealing with things that people have no idea about. I remember back way before that, actually working at a corporate job and then actually having panic attacks because I was going through this trauma at home. Well, nobody knew that, right? So that's one thing that I talk about. And then the other is going out to schools and colleges to speak both to the students and also to the educators, faculty, and staff to help them as well. And it's so fun. I actually, with the educators, like I just went out late last year and was speaking to a group of school counselors. And I had so much fun with them because I felt like they were like my people and just talking to them about, ways for us to trust our intuition better so we can lead ourselves and also others better. And then also gave some tips in there about how to transfer some of that information to help the students even trust their intuition better. Because, like I was mentioning, I talk about both prevention and healing. But on the prevention side, I never, ever have heard somebody talk about, we hear red flags about unhealthy relationships. We hear all those things, but I've never heard anybody talk about intuition. And we've heard that phrase time and time again, trust your gut, right? Trust your intuition. That's nice. But like, how do you actually do that, right? And so I talk a lot about that. And that's what I was presenting to the school counselor group. So I love giving that, that's one of the workshops that I offer, but it's information that helps us live safer, not just physically, but also emotionally. Like I said, to help ourselves be able to lead ourselves better and also lead others better, because as you well know, in your leadership roles that you've had, it's so hard to lead others well when you are dealing with, these invisible things that people can't see.
Absolutely. And, I think back, you were talking about that intuition piece. And I think back
Mhm.
to when I was a school social worker and a school counselor, we called it our oh feeling. We would get that oh feeling sometimes.
Y
And we
Right.
need to listen to that because
Yes.
it matters. We also have to, I think, take care of ourselves. And when we are
Yes.
thinking about taking care of ourselves, we have to listen to our gut. We have to be self aware and we have to put healthy boundaries in place. And you
Yeah.
talked earlier about your 4-year-old son. When all of this took place, your son was 4. As a parent, we have to put healthy boundaries in place for our children. And so
Mhm.
I'm just curious when you think about everything that you learned through this experience, how did that help you not only as a leader in your business and in the work world, but being a leader at home, being his mom? How did it help you to lead better in the home?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It helped me be able to, it was that realizing, if I'm not taking care of myself, how in the world am I going to take care of this little toddler who needs me? And now I'm the only parent, right? Like, how is that going to work? And so I remember my counselor sitting with me and helping me make like a self-care menu list. I talk a lot about that when I go out and speak because it's times that what I was talking about, they're so difficult that we don't even have the wherewithal to
Right.
remember what helps me take care of myself, right? And so I literally had a menu on my phone of things that I could choose each day. So each evening I would check in, after I put my son to bed. And then I finally had like a little bit of time for myself looking at that list. Okay, have I done anything for myself today? If not, okay, what's something on here that feels easy that I could do right now that would help myself? And so that was really key because a lot of times too, we are not really talking about self-compassion to the core and how it's true medicine. It's like medicine, right?
Right.
And so it's really important to not leave that out. But the tricky thing is for those of us who have been through something like that, we get stuck in that hyper vigilance and like hyper independence because that was our survival mode and that's what worked for us, right? And so now, 20 years later, I'm remarried. My son is grown. He's, working, doing his own thing. And I catch myself sometime thinking, all right, you're actually safe now, but sometimes our body doesn't feel that. So I have my own podcast and made an episode about that because a lot of times we'll give ourselves affirmations like, I am safe, right? And so put our hands on our hearts, tell ourselves we're safe. But my body's going, I don't remember being safe. So to me, then that makes hard work for my brain because my brain has to go, wait, what? How are we safe? So for me, whenever I do affirmation, I put a little bit of curiosity into it. So instead of I'm safe, it's I'm feeling safer and safer each day. And instead of my brain going fight, 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 that's not right. Instead, my brain goes, let's see, what are the things I can find that show me that I'm safer, right? And so it builds into that and it actually works way better, I've noticed, than just telling myself, well, you're safe, so just be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
It's and you were talking about micro steps, micro actions you can take. And I
Yeah.
done a solo podcast talking about the consistency and micro actions and how that compounds over time because you're right. Brain is not wired for truth. It's wired for survival. And you don't have to go through an FBI agent coming to your doorstep to deal with trauma. When I was 15, my brother Brandon drowned. That was a
Mhm.
traumatic event. COVID. COVID was a trauma that we all face. And we need to be self aware enough to identify those areas in our life where we can name it. That was something hard that I went through.
Right.
But now I'm getting safer and our words matter.
Oh, yes, 100%. Oh, yeah.
Let's pause for just a moment because I want to tell you about a partner who truly aligns with the heart of this podcast, Conversary. Here on Lead with Hope, we talk a lot about clarity of purpose, clarity of voice, and clarity of direction. And that's exactly where Conversary comes in. They help leaders, educators, and change makers uncover the story behind their work and share it in a way that feels honest, meaningful, and deeply aligned with who they are. If you've ever felt the nudge to write a book, refine your message, or build a brand that actually reflects your values, not just your resume, Conversary doesn't rush you or box you in. They walk alongside you, helping you shape your story with intention and integrity. You can learn more by clicking their link in the show notes or visiting them through the Spark Hope website. A big thank you to Craig Williams at Conversary for being a legacy sponsor of this podcast and for investing in stories that matter. Because when we share our stories with clarity and hope, real change happens. Our brain tries to find evidence. Okay, how am I safer? How am I safe?
Mhm.
And if that's what you're focused on, that you're safer, that you're growing, that you're getting better and you're becoming the best version of yourself, your brain is going to support that action. But
Right.
that is also true. If you say, I'm not safe, I'm in danger,
Mhm.
I'm failing, whatever that
Mhm.
narrative is, your brain is also going to try to find evidence that that is true. And so
Right.
we need to be really self aware and really conscious of what we're telling ourselves and what we're saying out loud as well,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
narrative can become reality.
And oh my gosh. Yeah, I used to catch my son on that, and I would just kind of have him question, when he's thinking that and thinking, I can't do this or whatever it is, he would get frustrated and helping him understand that I would always say whatever you think is what's going to be.
Yeah.
So, and just assisting ourselves, like you were talking about, the little baby steps. So I don't expect myself to go from point A to point B and right away. Like we were talking about feeling safer, right? It's something that we have to not just help our brain, but our body understand. And so, like I was mentioning too, way back then when I was getting the talk therapy, I also needed to actually move my body and talk things out and process things out. And so that's part of the framework that I teach about listening to our intuition. It's really important to process things through, but to take that time. So the first couple steps of that are just taking the pause to do that. Because how often, like if all of us who are listening right now, think about the times that you actually listen to your intuition when those you're talking about, those moments start to really catch in the brain and you start becoming aware of that, right? Is it when we're busy doing things a mile a minute? Or Is it when we're actually slowing down enough to get that shower we need before we head off for the day, right? How many times, like, I've gotten such, like, the best ideas in the shower or, like, right when I wake up before my mind starts spinning, right? So that is the first thing. And then also taking that time to listen inward. So, how many times, I don't know about you, Brandy, but for me, I just think about how many times do I ever wish that I did not listen to my intuition? That would be about
Good.
0,
Yeah,
right?
that's a great point, Mandy.
Yeah. And so it's key to listen to ourselves and remind ourselves, hey, my intuition in the past was right, and it could be something silly like setting my water right next to my mouse on my desk, and I'm thinking to myself, "Probably not a good idea. I'm probably gonna spill the water." And what happens? I spill the water, right?
Water.
Yeah. So it can even be just simple little things like that where, we start to trust our intuition. Okay, I'm thinking I probably will spill that. Let's just scoot that over a little bit. Even stupid little things like that, then we start to trust that and listen to that more because it's really important to do that. So yeah, I could talk about that for forever.
So
But
it makes me think of a quote that I just recently came across, and I'm wondering if you will react to this quote. So let me find it. Okay. So John Gordon says, oh, and I hope I say it right, don't listen to yourself, talk to yourself. How would you respond to that quote?
I love that. And that's actually the third step of the 5 in my framework, and that is, well, it's kind of the second and the third, listening inward, and remembering what I was just saying, that in the past, I was right. That intuition was right, and then also processing that. So everybody's different. I don't know, do you prefer to journal or to talk things out?
I probably, if I had to choose one over the other, it would be to talk things out. I'm a big
Same.
full processor. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And so I'm sure like you would probably love this too, but how many times have we like sat down and talked with a friend? They don't need to say anything, right? It's just we need to get that out and like hear ourselves and we'll answer our own question, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
But I will
yeah.
say, taking it that next step and then writing that down afterwards, because how often, and I didn't do this for a long time, Mandy, but recently I have went back and I've read my journals. And when you look at that, when you look at some of the goals that you've made,
Hmm.
even 2 or 3 years ago, or some of the pain points that you were experiencing, and
Right.
see how far you have come.
Oh my gosh.
Or
100%
or maybe just the opposite, you see that, "Oh, I'm stuck in a pattern."
true. It helps you see the patterns.
It does, it helps you see
Yeah.
patterns, and so just writing that down and then going back and reading what you've written to see your
Hmm.
progress, because I think it's really important. 1, we look for those patterns so we
Hmm.
don't stay stuck. 2, we celebrate our successes, big and
Mhm. Yeah. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Yeah, that's not natural for me to celebrate my successes. I'm just like, "Okay,
Yeah.
on to the next thing."
So,
Yep.
in our work now, yours and mine, we help people to identify practical strategies so that they can overcome and they can turn that pain into purpose. So, for those who are listening today and they may be walking through pain or uncertainty or a moment where they just don't see any hope,
Mhm.
what does it look like to keep leading and living with hope in your mind?
I remember way back when I literally thought there was no hope. I left this person, I'm trying to get better, right? And the FBI shows up on my doorstep. What the
Yeah.
heck? Right? And so I was doing everything I could, and I literally thought, "Am I ever going to get to live a life of peace and safety? That's all I want. I just want a boring life."
Right.
And I remember also asking my therapist too, like, how long until I feel better? And of course, she was like, there's so many variables, right? So, yeah, and now I see the other side of that,
Mm.
which at that point we don't have
Right.
crystal ball to see into the future, right? But just, I think remembering in the past, are there past times that were really difficult that you got through, right? Because you're here now,
Yeah.
remembering that and having that hope that if I just wake up and I put one foot in front of the other,
Mhm.
And I do that every day. Yes, I'm going to take 3 steps forward and 2 steps backwards sometimes, but that means I still took 1 step forward, right? So just taking those baby steps and then having the hope, remembering from the past, I have gotten through really difficult things before and I am here now. So, yeah.
And our lives are not, that excellence, or I call it excellence. Some people might say success. It's not linear.
Oh gosh, 100%. Yeah.
We're all over the place, and we can turn that pain into purpose no matter where we've went. But I do agree with you, Mandy. I think it just takes intentional, consistent action.
Hmm. Right. Yeah,
Sometimes we think we have to solve the world's problems,
I
and do
know.
this great big life overhaul. But if we can do something consistently in a year from now, we're going to make major improvements in our life. Deciding on one intentional action to consistently
Hmm.
implement day over day, that's so powerful.
100%. And two, like asking for help is so key, especially if you have a personality like us and or you've had to live in hypervigilance for so long and that's what your brain knows as survival. That makes it really difficult for us. But I think one, if we're talking more about these things, which I love that you do that. And then two, we're realizing, hey, other people are really dealing with some heavy stuff too. And then three, getting that support, whatever that looks like. Maybe you can't get support at work right now, but you can get support at home. Like I'll even do, things that seem like so not a big deal, but they are to me. So, like at home, I don't really cook. And so I buy things that are, already prepared or they're easy to prepare. I have my house cleaned, even though we downsize, we live in a tiny little place and it seems so dumb.
Yeah.
But to take that off my mental load,
Yeah.
is wonderful, those things. So
Yeah.
it's taking whatever we can from whatever part and then kind of offloading that. So it's something else that does not take up space.
And we can only be the best version of ourselves each and every.
Yeah. And we're not going to be perfect. And, some days I still have a hard time,
Exactly.
but I go back to those, what is on my menu that helps me. Like I know I need to get out in nature because that really, really helps me. So, things
Yeah.
like that.
I love that self-care menu. That's powerful.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, as we're wrapping up this show, all of this happened to you 20 years ago, Mandy. So, what's that look like now? Because your ex-husband, is he at all in your life now?
Thankfully, he is not in my life, but he is in my son's life. They have always talked from the beginning. They always kept a connection there, but at a distance. So my son didn't really visit him that much in prison, but, would do a weekly phone call or letters or emails or whatever, and I did a good job. I just want to pat myself on the back. I did a good job with not bad mouthing him, even though I had plenty to do that with, right? But I knew that my son could see the writing on the wall, like, his dad is in prison. Hello, like, and so, they have a relationship, but it's different than, of course, most dads and sons. My son has a stepdad that's been in his life for, quite a while. So, they have a relationship too.
Yeah. Is your ex-husband still in jail?
He just got out about a year ago and lives in a different state.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, what a story. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe they'll make a movie about it one day.
Yeah, I actually was interviewed by some celebrities for a show,
Yeah.
but they did not get the green light on the show for now. So, but yeah, I think it's something that we need to talk about, because yeah, a lot of people go through different traumas, but that's one that seems to be pretty, a lot of people deal with it. Not the FBI part, but the other part.
Hopefully not. Hopefully
Yeah.
not. But you've got a powerful story. And I think that the message for prevention, for healing, it's so important. So, as we wrap up this show today, Mandy, I'm just curious right now, as you sit and we are talking about hope, what's giving you hope right now?
What's giving me hope is just knowing that things have gotten better,
Mhm.
and they keep getting better. And like I said, seeing if I look at point A way back to the day the FBI showed up at my doorstep, to point B now, that is a world of a difference.
Right.
My environment, which I did have some choices in, as well as my inner, dialogue that I have with myself and my well-being. So those two things are completely different,
Mhm.
which I am super thankful for and feel gratitude for and don't take for granted.
The message that I'm getting from our conversation today is none of us get to choose the hand we get dealt in life.
Mhm.
We don't get that choice, but we do get to choose how we respond to it.
Yes.
You've chosen to take those small, consistent actions to make a better life for you and for your son and for your family. And now, on a broader scale, to
Mhm.
people where you go out and you speak and you share this to turn this pain into purpose. So,
Mhm.
if somebody is listening today and they want to hear more of your story, or maybe they want to bring you to their school or their organization, how would they get in touch with you, Mandy?
The best way is through my website. So the easiest way to remember that is just my name, Mandi Pratt, MandiPratt.com. And they can contact me through there. I do school assemblies and then also like educator workshops. I absolutely love talking to the students. And I love watching them like when I tell my story and they just go, and the questions that they ask me, they always ask me, "Miss Mandy, how are you okay after that?" I never would have guessed that.
Yeah.
And I love answering that question. And I also love how specific they are
Yeah.
and the questions that they ask me. I absolutely love it. So, yeah, I would speak to students all day long. And then, of course, love helping those who are serving the students, right? Because, like we were talking about, getting ourselves out of hypervigilance and helping ourselves have a self care menu. And I'm not just talking about bubble baths and stuff like that. I mean, like
Exactly. Exactly.
serious. And I've done a lot of study on neuroplasticity and the nervous system and have so much to say about that as well. But yeah, so the best way is through my website, and if they want to they can even go on there and take my little intuition quiz that will kind of help you spot where you're at with your own intuition, and that leads into that framework that I was talking about, so they can have that for free.
Yeah. And I love talking to students also. The students are amazing because, like you said, they have the best questions. And there's some of them have no filter. So it's whatever
Yeah,
in
I
their
love
head
it.
came out.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But you're right. The educators right now, they're dealing with so much.
They are.
So much. Post COVID, it just took things from 0 to 100, and there's so much. And so I think they need this now more than ever. A
Yeah.
lot of them are in a hypervigilant state. They're bringing that baggage to work. Maybe, maybe not the FBI coming to their doorstep, but maybe a difficult marriage or
Mhm.
a disability in their home that they're dealing with a child or an alien
Yeah.
parent. You never know the baggage people are carrying. So,
So true.
as we end today, I just want to leave you with this message. You can always choose to be kind, and you can always remember that the world needs your leadership and change starts with you. So, fuel your life with hope, embrace your purpose, and shine your light for others. Until next time, keep leading with hope. That's a wrap for today's episode of Lead with Hope. If this episode inspired you, I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to give us a 5-star rating and share it. Every review helps spread hope and empowers more leaders to rise. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep leading with hope.